If you're someone that cannot get your arm into an overhead position, you shouldn't be pressing overhead. Full stop. Now, there's a lot that you can do to actually improve the situation, but we need to understand what's happening at the shoulder itself. What I'm gonna show you is, imagine he had his arm and he could only get his arm into this position. It is not a good idea to be pressing with a barbell or a dumbbell or anything into overhead, because he's just gonna compensate and he's gonna end up loading up structures and creating really poor movement patterns. But you've got to also think about the shoulder blade here. To get Joe up into this position here, your shoulder blade's at the back. It wraps around and it tilts backwards like that. And 60 degrees of this position comes purely from the shoulder blade. So what you'll find in a lot of people is the shoulder blade is fixed and it doesn't move, and they move a lot through their arm, but there's no real movement through the shoulder blade. So they get all this impingement in pain in the actual front of the shoulder, the top of the shoulder, wherever it may be. It will show up in different places, but it's a two-pronged approach. We need to work on scap positioning and control, and we also need to work on the ability to get the arm overhead, then get them communicating. So we're gonna go out in the gym floor. I'm gonna show a couple of very practical ways to get the range of movement, but then start to pattern that overhead position. The lat is one of those areas that's just such a high use area. Doing some trigger point, whether it's with a foam roller or a ball, just to get some movement and blood flow into the tissue is really important. You can pick a few different spots, up underneath the armpit and then down. The lat's really big and actually comes down like that. So you can work through the actual tissue itself. You can rock side to side, you can roll up and down, and you can also lift the arm up off the ground just to work through some of those active trigger points. Now, this is a classic lat-based stretching mobility drill. And the goal here is to take the arm into an overhead position, but think about that, getting some length between the hip and the actual arm itself, just to hit different areas of the lat. Now we're gonna jump into some scap work. And now what we wanna do is start to pattern the actual shoulder blade to be strong and stable in these positions. This Y raise is a really great variant because it takes the body out of the equation and you can focus more so on what is actually happening at the shoulder. So I'm gonna get Joe to lift his arm up and then reach around over the top of this block. And you can see there what's happening is it's forcing him to actually use his shoulder blade. Do a couple of reps here, up and over. Now we're gonna integrate it into an actual pressing pattern. Now, this is a fantastic drill to start to integrate that pressing pattern. Now, the carryover with this drill is that it promotes a little bit of that reaching pattern, and it promotes a lot of the qualities that we want in a top position of a press. Now, Joe might have to spend a bit of time here actually working through sets and reps and building up a couple of blocks of his actual pressing strength before he can go to something heavier, such as a dumbbell or a barbell. But this is a really logical way to start to look at how to introduce patterns when we are deficit in a range of movement, so we can get the range, we can get the control, and we can build up in a progressive way.